Metal Driver here, and it has been a while since I've looked at a Mcfarlane DC Multiverse figure, and what better way to come back and look at one than to review the Mcfarlane Toys Knightfall Batman. We get our standard packaging here that we've seen many times before, and on the back we see this nice artwork of Batman done by Kelly Jones. But enough of all that. So many people have been raving that this is the definitive Batman figure by Todd McFarlane, so let's go ahead and open this up and see if this is indeed the best McFarlane Batman figure. Now look at the figure right off the bat, no pun intended. It's pretty easy to see why this figure is being hyped as it is because it looks really good. I think this figure has a good representation of that period of comics, late 70s up to the early 90s, where Batman was dressed in his classic blue with a yellow oval. But before we look at the figure, let's look at the accessories that it comes with. We see this stand that we get with pretty much all the multiverse figures. It's got the DC logo here at the bottom, one peg here. We get this trading card with Kelly Jones's artwork and a data file on the back of the card. We also get two interchangeable gripping hands and a single blue batarang. Looking at the head sculpt, I absolutely love this. It is sculpted really well. The paint around the mouth, the lips look really nice. It really gives off that Neil Adams or Jim Aparo style. I'm not exactly sure which artist this Batman is based on, but from what I'm seeing on the figure, definitely one of those two. Here's a look at the side that looks really good. So really happy with how this turned out. And then before I look at the body of the figure, I do want to look at the cape. I think it's sculpted pretty well. It looks nice. Now, I'm not a big fan of plastic capes, but this is pretty much what we get with most, if not all, of the McFarlane Batman figures. Now, it would have been nice to get a soft goods cape, but again, that's not something we often get. It's pretty rare that we get a soft goods cape, but I'm pretty sure I can easily customize this or find a good cape online. The body of this figure is sculpted really well. I like how it's lean, it's not too bulky. Again, very reminiscent of the Neil Adams and Jim Aparo style. I love how the bat emblem on the chest turned out. It is sculpted, it's not just painted over the chest. So you can feel the sculpting on the bat right there and the oval. And you do see creases on the costume. So I love that attention to detail. That looks really good. Here a look at the arms. That looks nice. The gloves are nice and big. I love the color of the blue. Fins right here. Nice and long. So that looks good. Here's a quick look at the back. As you can see right here, if you use some heat, you could cut that off and give him his own custom cape. Nice classic look of the belt with the capsules right here. Good sculpting there. Good sculpting on the trunks. And some nice looking legs. You get a little bit of creasing right there on the sculpt work. So I don't know if any of these parts have been reused for this figure. They look pretty much new to me, especially that torso. Here's a look at the boots. Look nice. So as you can't already tell, I'm fawning over this figure. This looks really good. A great representation of Knightfall Batman. So I'm really happy with how this is looking. Now let's see if the articulation is just as good as the sculpt. Alright, now for the articulation, the head I'm pretty sure is on a ball joint. It looks that high up and that far down. Can turn side to side, and it also tilts. I also want to quickly point out that it looks like here, if you heat up this cape, it should be easy to come off, so that would be great if you want to give him a custom cape, which pretty sure I'm going to end up doing. Shoulder goes that high up, rotates all the way around. It is a bit loose on mine, so that's a little unfortunate, but I could easily fix that. He's got a butterfly joint in there, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. There we go. Great range there. There is a hinge here at the wrist, and it also swivels. We get a ball joint here at the diaphragm. Let's see. Doesn't really go that far forward. It does go that far back. You can pivot a bit, and there should be another ball joint at the waist, so allows him to go a little bit more forward and that far back, and a slight twist right there. Legs go that far out, that high up, so pretty good range. No thigh cut, but that's pretty standard for McFarlane figures, but there's usually articulation in the inner thigh right there, so yep, there we go. Double jointed knees. Ankle goes that high up, that far down. There is rotation there at the ankle, and there should be some ankle pivot, a bit stiff right there. Yep, that foot is a lot easier to pivot, and we get toe articulation. And now for everyone's favorite part of a review, here are the comparisons with the McFarlane Toys 1000 variant Batman and the DC Essentials Knightfall Batman. And the McFarlane Toys is slightly taller, but I think they scale pretty well. And looking at those two side by side, I really do appreciate the unique sculpting on Mcfarlane's, whereas the DC Essential, many of those figures pretty much used the same body. And speaking of DC Essentials, here he is next to the Knightfall Catwoman. I don't have the Mcfarlane Toys one, but I really like this one, and it scales well with this Batman, so they look really good next to each other. Here he is next to Azrael, Batman with a custom cape. Now let's look at some Bane. So starting off, here's the DCUC Build-A-Figure Bane, which still holds up pretty well to this day, and he is still taller than the McFarlane Batman, so you could still fudge this together, and they look pretty nice next to each other. And then here he is. There we go. Here he is next to the Mcfarlane Toys Mega Figure Bane. That looks really nice standing next to this Batman. He is just beefy, massive as he should. And finally, here he is next to the Storm Collectibles Injustice Bane. So, does the Knightfall Batman live up to the hype? Is it in fact the definitive Batman from the McFarlane Toys line? Well, yeah, it pretty much is. Even though it seems like that phrase is being thrown around a lot with these new Batmans that we keep getting. I know a lot of people were saying that about the Blue Hush, and yes, this did come out afterwards, but as far as the blue Batman with the gray tights, the blue cowl, the yellow oval, yeah, I would say this is the definitive Batman figure. From McFarlane Toys, obviously. Now, there are a ton of Batmans that Todd McFarlane releases, but if you only want one, I say this is the one to get. Now, I don't have that year 2 Batman in my collection, so I can't really compare this with that, but based on what I'm seeing here and the images I've seen online, I like this body a lot more. And that figure also had QC problems across the board. This one, I haven't heard any QC problems. The sculpting looks great on the body. The head sculpt looks nice. The colors look good. There is a better version, that's SDCC one, but I'm pretty sure you'd have to pay an arm and a leg to get that on the aftermarket. This is a $20 figure. I found this at my Target, so hopefully you can find this out in the wild. So if you are a Batman fan, if you are a fan of the McFarlane Toys line, this is one you definitely want in your collection. So hit that like button and subscribe. It'll certainly encourage me to do more McFarlane Toys review on a more consistent base. In the meantime, check out my last McFarlane Toys review that I did, and I'll see you next time.